Right, so in the last video, we placed an architecturally correct view, saved it to a list of views, and now we're gonna create the basic settings which will allow us to get a good quality render out. So that's gonna be here in options. Now the options, if we just collapse all of the menus, will look a bit like this. And there's a huge number of options that all do things that are extremely complicated. And so it's a bit beyond the scope of this video to explain exactly what each parameter does. But what we're going to do is we're going to create some very basic settings that will create very good results with both interior and exterior renders. So you can use this as a very good template. So the first thing we're going to do is go to indirect illumination. So that's almost like the heart of V-Ray. This is what controls how light bounces around the scene and creates the smooth lit result that we want. So the first thing that we can see is that there are two multipliers, primary and secondary bounces. The first one is set to irradiance map, that's good. The next one is set to brute force, and we're going to want to set that to light cache. So let's just look at the settings for irradiance. Oops, that's right here. And we're going to change the minimum rate and the maximum rate. The maximum rate should be, the minimum rate should be -4. And the maximum is -2. That should be good. And the subdivisions, we're going to want to use 85. And interpolation samples should be 40. So that's it for this one. Now the light cache settings. You want to change the subdivisions to 2000. And that should be all right for light cache. Now, one more thing to do in indirect illumination is to click on ambient occlusion. This is an easy way of highlighting shadows. And all you have to do is click it on, and these settings should be pretty much all right. So that's it for indirect illumination. You can just close this. Now, next one, go to global switches. Here you just want to check that displacement, lights, and shadows are on. And we're going to change the maximum transparency levels to 25. We're going to lower it. That's going to make our rendering much faster. So the next one is image sampler. What we want to do is change the color threshold. That's here. Just click this. It should be 0.002. So next one, the DMC sampler. So adaptive amount should be 0.98. Should be 30. Global subdivisions should be 3. Noise threshold should be 0.002. Next is color mapping. Actually, the default settings here are correct, so don't change anything. We're going to want to change the burn value, but that's after we've set up the lighting. Now, the last thing that we're going to look at is the output. That's actually where you control the aspect ratio of the image and the image size. So, for example, say that at the moment, the image is set to be 800 by 600. But if you want to set up the same proportion that you have on your view, so you just select your view, which is this, click Get View Aspect. And it'll set it to that proportion. So 800 to 422, it's reading that off my viewport. If I wanted to have a larger resolution with the same aspect ratio, just set this to 1000, say, click Get View Aspect again, and then that'll change the proportion. Okay, but for preview purposes, we want to set this to something really low. So 500 by 264, and that should be the exact proportion that we have here. So once we try to render this out, you do that by clicking Render here. So that's what we get with just these settings. Now, what we just went through in this video are basic settings upon which to create a lighting and a materials scheme. So don't worry if this looks really plain. This is just the basic settings to get something working for us. In the next few videos, we're going to add an environment, we're going to add materials, and we're going to correct the camera settings so that they match what's happening in Rhino perfectly.